Hi, it's Matthew McAllister here. Today I am visiting the guitar luthier James Lister here at his workshop, and you can probably hear the sound of the wind in the trees and the birds. James has the most beautiful workshop here in his garden in Sheffield, and I've known James for a long time. James has attended all but one of my classical guitar retreats in Scotland, and he's always brought fantastic guitars to show and exhibit at each retreat. And this year he is building the first prize guitar for the Gallery of Guitar competition. So I thought I would come and visit James, see how the guitar's getting on, and spend a little bit of time with him in his workshop. You can maybe just make him out behind me just now, working away on the guitar. Let's go in and take a look. Hello everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the luthier James Lister, and welcome to Gallery of Guitar, James.
Thank you.
It's absolutely brilliant to have James on the channel, and the reason James is on the channel is because this year James has very kindly agreed to build the first prize guitar for the Gallery of Guitar competition, which is on the bench behind us.
Yes.
So that's many hours of work already have gone into this beautiful guitar that James has made for the competition. And probably you've been watching on Gallery of Guitar the heats, the preliminary rounds, which have just finished. So some lucky talented guitarist is going to win this guitar in just over a month from now. So you know that James is looking like, oh, there's a bit of work to be done, but we just wanted to have a little look at the guitar today before James puts the back on and gets ready to polishing. But it's nearly done, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I used to joke with some of the students that once you get the back on, you're halfway there, but it's not quite that bad.
Okay, but it looks amazing. So this is the third year that we've obviously had a luthier build a really special guitar, and it's fantastic to come and spend a little bit of time with you in your workshop today and find out a little bit about this guitar that James is building. So James, first of all, most straightforward question, what woods are you using for the guitar?
So the top is spruce, which I use on probably 95% of my guitars.
Yeah.
It's sort of what I'm known for, and I just feel a bit more comfortable with it.
So you like the spruce
cedar
over the cedar?
Generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, when I've made cedar guitars, I've really liked those as well. So who knows? But that's what I mostly do.
Okay, so spruce top. Mm-hmm.
The back and sides are walnut, which is a little bit unusual, but becoming more common. And for me, really, it's an interest in trying to use more non-tropical woods, more sustainable woods in the guitar making where possible.
Well, we've spoken about this a little bit over the years when you've been coming to the classical guitar retreat. We were working it out in the car from the station. We think James has been to every single one bar the first.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is amazing. So it's also really quite special that you're making the guitar, which will be presented during this retreat. We're nearly at 20 retreats here, you know. Yeah. But yes, we've talked about non-tropical woods before with different projects and different things that have been going on. Why are you interested in that over, let's say, the Brazilian rosewoods and Indian rosewoods, those more tropical woods that are really well established, I guess?
I mean, it's partly a sort of reaction to the impression people seem to have that if for the very best guitars you must have rosewood, and in particular you must have Brazilian rosewood. Brazilian rosewood, as you know, is highly protected, which makes it both difficult to obtain and extremely expensive, and difficult to even move around with your guitar once it's made.
Well, for players, they can, more and more you're hearing stories about people running into difficulties with travelling with these protected species of woods on their instruments, Cocobolo, Brazilian, Indian, these kind of things, and people needing documentation. To be able to prove the provenance of these things. And Okay, so you were thinking, how do I, solve that puzzle a little bit?
And then 10 years ago or so at New York College, we were involved in a project called the Leonardo Guitar Research Project, which investigated the use of non-tropical woods. And we had students building guitars with tropical woods and non-tropical woods, and then doing blind listening tests to see who could hear the difference, and almost no one could.
Really?
And even the one or two who could, it's a small enough number that it could have just been to chance.
Yeah, that's interesting. That, I mean, obviously, a lot of the back and the sides is aesthetic. It's how it looks, and it's the look that the player wants. The person that's going to be spending the time with the guitar and making the music. I've often wondered how much does the back and the sides affect the sound. So you were saying in those tests it was kind of
it was very hard to tell. I mean, most guitar makers will say, and I think I agree with this, that the back and the sides contribute maybe 5% to the tone of a guitar.
So it's something.
But so there is something there. Yeah. Almost anything you change on a guitar will have some influence on the sound, but it's very small. And then
things have influence on the players as well.
Well, of course,
I mean, and that's
absolutely.
A funny thing. Something about. I mean, we'll have a look around James's workshop as well. I know we're doing close-ups of the competition guitar, but you've got one of your guitars that's beautifully French polished and finished over there in the nursery of the workshop, and we'll have a look at that as well, which is actually using more traditional woods as well. So that's part of it. But sometimes when you pick a guitar up and it looks a certain way, it provokes you to make music in a certain way. So it's kind of interesting, Sorry, but I cut you up when you were talking about it.
It's just not only is it, I think, wrong to say you have to use rosewoods. Even if there is that very small difference, it's a question of working with that as a player, and maybe it's a slightly different sound, but maybe it's different in a good way.
Of course. That's experimentation, isn't it? And it's also, you're not necessarily using woods you're still using species of woods that are very established. I mean, walnut back and sides, walnut trees. I mean, we're not talking about something that's like alien, to the world of woodworking and the world of instrument making as well. So
absolutely. And I use a lot of maple, which is again very pretty well all wood instruments use maple for back and sides.
Exactly. So that's very common. Yeah.
And it's a really nice wood. And when I can convince myself I can hear a difference, I tend to describe maple guitars as having a slightly creamy tone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would definitely say that the maple. I know from playing maple guitars that there is a difference. And you came to the guitar retreat one year when we were on the island on the west coast. And we had the Polish guitarist Marcin, and he was really infatuated with one of your maple guitars. I remember that. He was sitting in the cloisters playing away. And and then I remember visiting him in Poland, and he had quite a lot of guitars with maple. He was really taken with that sound, and I think I've seen him play maybe a couple of concerts now where he's always using the maple guitar. And it's interesting because that is, in some ways, quite different to the current vogue. A lot of people playing double top guitars. I mean, I'm playing a cedar guitar just now as well because my sort of taste is going that way as well. But I used to play spruce guitars. Most of my career I played spruce guitar. But right now I'm interested in the cedar sound. So it changes. It changes and it develops. So you would go slightly more traditionally. You've been building with spruce for your tops, and you've been experimenting with non-tropical woods, and therefore more sustainable.
Yes, generally. I mean, you have to be careful about sustainability. I mean, fingerboards are quite difficult to get away from ebony, really. There are sort of synthetic ebonies, which I think actually work quite well. I'm going to be using, for this one, bog oak, which is a non-tropical wood, but it definitely you can't claim that it's sustainable.
Is that what you've got there?
So that's the bog oak.
So let's have a look at this if we were okay.
So it's got the traditional look of ebony. It being black, which players like.
Yes, of course.
It's not quite as hard, so it won't be quite as hard wearing as ebony, but it's pretty good. But yes, so it's non-tropical, but not really.
Not necessarily sustainable. I mean, it's come out of a bog in the ground, but it's quite interesting because we were talking about this as well. Ebony obviously shrinks a lot as well, and it behaves not in as stable. I think sometimes people have a preconception about the density of the wood, therefore the stability is better.
I had this when I first started guitar making. I had the same misconception. You assume it's so hard and dense, surely it's not going to move. But ebony's really bad. Unfortunately, bog oak isn't significantly better in that respect. But it's not really worse. So you live with that.
Well, it's just something different. But it's interesting. Obviously, both the ebony and the bog oak have the dark quality to them. They're sort of really black or very, very dark brown. And that's what people want on a fingerboard.
Mm.
But obviously you could actually use other woods, which
Yeah,
would be
absolutely.
lighter,
Yeah.
which would be fine for a fingerboard. But maybe the demand and what people have got used to in terms of the aesthetic of an instrument is your fingerboard is just black.
It's just black.
You know, and that's it. Okay,
Yeah.
so you,
I mean, you can stain, but usually you eventually wear through that, and you get these which you see particularly on cheap guitars, which have got really cheap wood with light stains on. You wear through, and you
yes,
white patches in the first
exactly.
few
Yeah,
frets.
yeah. I've seen that before and thought this was painted over black.
Yes.
I don't think this is actually. Yeah.
I mean, there is another wood that I've used once for fingerboard, which is laburnum.
Okay.
Which is actually I'm using a laburnum for the bridge on this guitar.
Right. Okay.
And that's a sort of mid to darkish brown, so
Yeah.
at least it's not really light, but it's certainly not black.
Very interesting. Okay, so we've got spruce top, walnut back and sides, the bog oak for the fingerboard, the neck of the guitar, and the headstock. What's going on there?
Next, a difficult one where I've made really entirely non-tropical
Yeah.
guitars. I've either had to use maple or walnut, but they're a bit heavy, really.
Okay, so for the player, they sit a little bit heavier.
I'm not sure if it makes that much difference once you're sitting down holding the guitar, but when you just sort of lift it and feel it, it doesn't quite
The
feel
initial
right.
sort of
Just the balance feels a little
Then
bit
if
off.
you pick up one of these old Ramirez guitars and you sort of
that's
oh my
true.
gosh,
Yeah,
you know, the neck's chunky and it feels.
Yeah.
And then of course, like some of the guitars, I'm always astounded by the weight of like a Greg Smallman guitar.
Yes,
I pick up and I'm like
yeah.
falling over, you
It's
know.
huge, everything's- yeah.
Okay, so just
So I can do that. What I'm doing more at the moment is I'm sticking with Cedrela,
Okay.
which is more a very traditional wood for classical guitar necks, but I'm sourcing it from a supplier that's FSC certified. So it's a sort of it's a little bit of a compromise, but it's, at least it is certified as sustainable.
Yeah, and also guitars and the building of guitars, the tradition of guitars. I think about things like the strings that went on them that were made of gut, animal gut. So I mean, we've moved away with that, with Nile gut into nylon, and we're even getting strings now that are fluorocarbon and things like that. So innovation is happening. Things are moving forward. You're obviously making an effort to really try and use sustainable woods where you can, non-tropical woods, making it a little bit easier for the player to move around, and making it obviously a bit more easy to source these woods and the sustainability. And it's to be applauded. I think it's really, really interesting as well. And like you say, something comes from it because the sound is maybe a little bit different to what we're used to, so we can explore a new aesthetic and a new sort of palette of colour, which is really interesting. So tell me a bit more about the neck. We were talking when I came in, you've got a little bit of reinforcement in the neck.
Yes, I'll just flip it over. For quite a few years now, I've been using a carbon fibre reinforcing bar in the neck. It's just a square section bar, 10mm square, and it's just set into the neck and it's hidden by the fingerboard, so you don't see it, you don't experience it as a player. And it's not so much, I don't see it as adding strength particularly, although it does a little. It's more about long-term stability and just sort of ensuring against long-term neck movement.
Right, okay, so you're trying to keep that neck stable for as long as you possibly can over the duration of the life of the guitar. Okay, well, I mean, we see things like that a lot in electric guitars and big steel string, instruments as well. I think I've got an old 12-string guitar that I don't know what it's got, in a titanium or something, probably to hold that neck from coming forward with all those strings that are on it.
And you do even see classical guitars with adjustable truss rods. Now it's becoming a bit more common. I've done it once or twice, I think.
Okay.
Put a truss rod into a guitar. That's another way to go.
It's not something
seems a bit.
It's not something I've had any experience with, but I have talked to makers who are doing it, and it's obviously something that you can add in for a player when maybe they sort of arrive somewhere and the humidity's different and their action maybe isn't quite behaving like they had at home where they were practicing. I mean, I usually do it by little veneers of wood that can go under the nut and just lift it and put it down, and things like that, or obviously saddle height and things like that. But it's interesting. So then we come to your rosette on the face of the guitar. What's the the design and the style there?
On this guitar and on, I don't know what percentage, probably at least half of my guitars, I've used a rosette which relies more on the grain and the colours and the natural beauty, if you like, of the wood rather than a traditional Spanish rosette with intricate inlay patterns.
Okay.
And it's an idea I pinched off a French guitar maker whose name I can't even remember when I was still a student. And it's sort of developed a bit over the years. And on this particular one I've used olive wood, just sort of stick with the non-tropical
olive
theme.
wood,
So it's the
okay.
first time I've used olive wood.
Yeah, and that would immediately speak to me as being quite a soft wood to work with, olive wood, or is it not? Is that again another misconception?
No, it is relatively soft, but it's absolutely fine. It's stable. The one difficulty with working with these woods with wild grains, and this is a much bigger problem if you start using them for backs and sides, is they're less stable. They're more prone to cracking. So
Okay.
with a wood like that in the rosette, it's possible, and I've certainly seen it on a few of my guitars where over the years you get little cracks developing in that.
Okay. So
Which
it
doesn't affect anything, but it.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's just age, isn't it?
Yeah.
On wood. I mean, I've never looked at a piece of wood and expected it not to have some sort of character in it, which is what's so unique about every piece of wood you use. So we've gone over the back and the sides and the rosette and the neck and fingerboard as well. What's going on inside under the face of the top with your bracing system? You use traditional fan braces.
Yes, I do. It's what I've not always done. I've experimented a bit, as all guitar makers do, but I've found that fan bracing is what works for me.
Okay. Yeah.
And I like to have an asymmetric system in some way. There are different ways of achieving that through the thickness of the top or the height of the braces. In quite a few of my guitars, I use 6 fans, so there's a central brace, and then there's 3 on one side and just 2 on the other.
So one coming down the middle,
Yeah.
kind of from the sound hole, and then you've got 3 on one side and 2 in the other. And would that be, I mean, I'm just thinking of it in the alignment of the strings, would that be treble side with 3 or treble side with 2?
So actually, surprisingly, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, interesting.
People tend to talk about the treble side and the bass side of the soundboard. But really, if you look at the top of a guitar, all the strings are attached to a fairly stiff block of wood in the centre of the bridge.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which is in the centre of the soundboard.
So then the way that the energy's been dissipated through the soundboard is not treble on one side and bass on the other. I mean,
no, absolutely. The whole soundboard moves whichever string you plug.
Okay, exactly.
But the important thing for me is to have some variation in the stiffness, which I think helps with producing an even tone across the whole fingerboard.
And you've been experimenting with asymmetry to sort of, look to sort of develop that a little bit. So, so this has 6 or this has 5?
This has 5 fan
has
braces,
5.
so the pattern is symmetrical.
Yep.
But you can also vary the height of the braces to give you asymmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, I've also angled the lower harmonic bar so that it tightens up one side a bit more than the other.
Okay, great. Another really charming and really beautiful part of this instrument is that you reached out to the guitar tuning manufacturer, Guitar Tuners, of Chris Barnett, and he sent you some beautiful tuners to put on the guitar.
Yes, he was very, very nice about it, very good about it. I received 2 sets of tuners from him. One of which is it's the first time I've used them, and the other one is on the other guitar that's in this workshop.
We'll take a look at.
Really pleased with them so far.
I've
They're really nice tuners.
I've played a couple of guitars over the years that have had Barnett tuners on them and been kind of blown away by how beautiful they look, and obviously they're so smooth in the mechanism. So Chris, I'm sure you're watching. Thank you very much. This is brilliant to have these, and again, some very lucky, talented young person is going to have a wonderful instrument, which they will, of course, be a great ambassador for both James's creation of the guitar and these beautiful machine heads that Chris has made. I've got another piece of this guitar in my hands here. Fascinating. The bridge of the guitar is yet another wood. So this is just even for me. We've got walnut back and sides, spruce top, olive wood rosette.
Yes.
Cedrilla for the neck, bog oak
for the fingerboard,
and now we come to
laburnum for the bridge. Yeah, laburnum's a wood. You don't tend to get very large laburnum trees, so back and sides are not impossible but difficult. But it can certainly be used for bridges and for fingerboards if you can put up with it not being black. For bridges, it's really nice because it's similar density to Indian rosewood. Traditionally most bridges will be rosewood of some sort. And I have used walnut for bridges, but it's got a couple of problems. One, it's a bit light, so it affects the whole way the guitar works, because you're losing some weight from the bridge. But also it's relatively soft, and the first time I used it I realised that the string holes were wearing quite quickly. So I ended up having to put brass inserts in. And then I sent the guitar to America with brass inserts in, and he got in touch with me saying it's breaking the first string. So I hadn't smoothed the end of the... So it's a bit tricky, but the laburnum works really nicely. I've used it a few times now.
It's certainly absolutely gorgeous looking, and it'll just add another character to the top of the guitar. Even though you've used a variety of woods, there's a sort of similarity to how it's going to come together when it's polished and everything's. It's going to have a really nice balance to it.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, you try. You don't worry too much about getting sort of colours of woods that are all perfectly matched or anything. But it's nice to have a sort of overall theme, and that will affect what I do with the bindings and purflings. Of course,
and you go for a 12-hole tie block?
Yes, unless someone asks me for a 6-hole now, I always do a 12-hole.
So you always go for 12-hole?
I like them. People talk about it increasing the break angle, which it does, but that's it. I think what's more important is it gives you more flexibility in the future if things do move a bit to lower the action without lowering the break angle to a point where it doesn't work.
Okay, very interesting. So again, the sustainability of the instrument moving forward is sort of aided by that choice as well. Fantastic. So we thought we would take a little look at one of James's completed guitars. This guitar's not long finished, I don't think.
The strings just went on 3 days ago. So.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely stunning. And this, hanging in your workshop, it was one of the things that immediately caught my eye when I came in. The one that's on the bench behind is going to resemble something very much like that in a few weeks. It's crazy to imagine, when you see the finished article. So this guitar follows your sort of Lister design. This is a standard model.
Yes, it's. I mean, historically, I started off making not really Hauser copies, but Hauser-based guitars, and then just over the years, I developed things a bit to something that I could claim they're better than Hausers, but for me, it worked better than the exact Hauser designs I was using. This is one of the ones that has 6 fan braces, in fact. And it's using more traditional woods, so we have a rosewood bridge, ebony fingerboard.
So this is these are the more traditional.
I mean, the back and sides are not entirely traditional. It's cocobolo, but that's becoming more common as a sort of alternative to, particularly to Brazilian rosewood. And it's. It's nice to have a sapwood stripe down the middle of the back.
Beautiful, absolutely. And these are Chris's tuners.
And these are Chris's tuners as well. As I say, first time I've used them, and I've only had the strings on a few days, but immediate impressions is they're really nice to use as well as looking really nice.
And this is what we call bear claw in the spruce. This
Indeed.
Little
which is an interesting one. Does it improve the sound? No, I don't know. It adds stiffness across the grain, which can be a good thing, but you can do that by seeing the other guitar. I've got transverse braces running across, which sort of does the same thing. I don't think it's better or worse in terms of sound, but it looks really nice.
It looks beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. So apart from building this first prize guitar, what else has been going on?
A few slightly different things over the last few years. I just recently finished my first lute, which was quite an exciting experience.
So after building over 150 guitars, you thought, I'll have a go at it.
Time for a change. I've been wanting to build one for some years, really, and just didn't have the opportunity. But customer I'd built a guitar for a few years previously approached me and said, would I build an arch lute? And I said, well,
your first go,
First go was a bit of a challenge, but it was challenging, but I really enjoyed it, and I do hope to be making more. Maybe not for another year, but
maybe not 150 lutes,
maybe not 150,
because this is guitar 151, and that was lute number 1. So So I don't know if we can call that moving to the darker side, because usually people go from electric guitar to the out of the darkness to the light to classical guitar. But was there any? What were the big differences in working on a lute over working on these guitars?
So some of the basic woodworking skills are the same, but apart from that, everything's just that bit different. The big shock, having made so many guitars, is having to sort of look everything up, or in some cases talk to an expert on loop making.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, every single stage you go, oh, how do I do this? How do I do this?
Yeah,
Some of it's obvious, but there's an awful lot where you really have to think about doing things differently. And in some ways there's a high level of precision. Certainly making the rose, you know, the rose is actually
so ornate,
carved out of the actual soundboard wood, so you can't afford to go wrong with it apart from anything else. And you know, I've made 3 tools. Actually made 3 tools for doing the carving of the rose.
Your own specific ones. All right. Wow. Okay. So if we see Lister Lutz coming out, then that'll be happen. You've moved. And then tell me a little bit about this. This you had this book last year.
I did indeed. It probably just missed the year before because it was published in September.
Amazing.
2 years ago.
The Guitar Repair Book: A Practical Guide to Repairing and Maintaining Acoustic and Classical Guitars.
Yeah, so it does cover steel string guitars as well as classical guitars. But I was approached by the publishers who initially said, "Do you know anyone who could write a book on this? And do you think there'd be a market for it?" And I said, certainly I think there's a market for it, because there are a few acoustic guitar repair books, but I kind of felt there was space for something better, perhaps.
And with all your experience having taught at New York at the school for so many years, of course.
And I really enjoyed writing it, actually. I do like writing it. Of course, it takes way longer than you expect it to.
But that process is very different from making guitars, actually sitting and writing down all the things that you need in terms of repairs and maintenance and things like that. So the experience was good. You enjoyed it?
It was good, yeah.
Is there going to be a second book in there?
Probably not.
Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, for all these things, every time I sort of visit with a luthier, especially our luthiers over the years that have been building guitars for the competition, we put links in the description so that you find out more about James. James's website will be there. I'm sure your book is on there as well for people to sort of find out more about. I remember it was very eye-catching last year. You had it where you were exhibiting your guitars at the retreat. It's beautifully made.
I was very pleased with how it came out.
It looks fantastic. The ideal coffee table book for any aspiring classical guitarist out there. No, it's great. So building lutes, writing books. That's the side hustles to building guitars.
Certainly building more guitars will be still central, I would imagine.
And with this one being number 151, for the prize, will you build another 50? Do you think you can get up to 200? Is that what you're aiming for?
I'm certainly not aiming for it. If it happens, fine. But at the moment, I'm thinking, do I want to build another 50 odd guitars? Maybe not. Maybe, who knows?
Let's see what happens. Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me down to your workshop and having a look at the guitar. And now I'll just let you get on with finishing it because we've only got 5 weeks to go.
Hoping to get my back on today, so we'll see.
Brilliant. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you very soon.